Hi everyone, I'm Nirasha and you're watching Public Sector Economy Part 1. So let's start. So to start this lesson, you need to know this classification of goods based on rivalry and excludability. To know the classification, you need to know the meanings of these terms. Okay, so we'll see one by one what are the meanings of rivalry, non-rivalry, excludability and non-excludability are. Okay, first we'll see rivalry. Rivalry means one person's consumption of the good will reduce the amount available for another person. Okay, that means you go to a bookstore and you buy a book. Okay, when you purchase that book, that means the amount of books available for the other people reduced. Okay, that is what you call rivalry. So the opposite of rivalry is non-rivalry. That is, one person's consumption of the good will not reduce the amount available for the others. You take a highway. You use the highway once. You use the highway twice. Does that mean that you just reduced the amount available for the other people? No. They also can use the same highway that you are using with no issues. Yes? Okay. Then comes excludability. Excludability means if you are not paying for the product, you can be excluded. You will not be allowed to consume the good. Okay. The same example. You buy the book. If you say you can't pay for the good, you can't buy that book, right? That is, you are excludable. You want to use the highway, but if you're not willing to pay for that use, pay for using the highway, you are excludable. And the opposite of excludability is non-excludability. That means if you are not willing to pay, doesn't mean they can exclude you from consumption. Okay, for an example, you take knowledge. You can find knowledge everywhere, right? Does that mean if you're not paying? Yes, schools, universities, educational institutes, it's a different story. That is not what I'm talking here. Knowledge or world peace, or just take sunlight. Why I didn't take sunlight is because it's a natural, it's not an economic good. Okay, you take world peace. Those are, you can consume those. You're using those, but are you paying anything for it? No. So those are non-excludable goods. Okay. Now, since we are familiar with these terms, we'll see how these goods are being classified. We have 4 categories. First one is private goods, which are excludable and rival. Just like the book I just took. Or food that you eat, the clothes that we wear. Okay, houses, chairs, tables, electronic items, IT equipments, private goods. If you don't pay, you will be excluded. And if you consume, you are reducing the amount available for the others. Okay. Then comes quasi-public goods. Quasi-public goods are non-rival but excludable. That means non-rival means just because you use it doesn't mean you're reducing the amount available for the others, but you are excludable, just like the highway. If you're not paying for it, you will be excluded from consuming. Okay. Then comes common resources. We also call them as common pool resources. They're like the opposite of quasi-public goods because they are rival but non-excludable. Oil deposits. You can use it, right? Oil deposits. Does anyone come and claim the ownership of oil deposit? Well, the country's authority will come and say, but if you find it, no one, or the natural forests, they are rival, but they are not excludable. Okay. Then comes pure public goods. Pure public goods, they are non-rival and non-excludable. Street lights, world peace, law and order, knowledge, ozone layer, they are pure public goods. No, it will not reduce the amount available for the others. neither no one can exclude you from consumption just because you're not paying for it. Okay, next. Now we are going to look into detail about these goods. Firstly, we'll look at pure public goods. So we know pure public goods are non-rival and non-excludable. People cannot be prevented from consumption of the good, and one person's consumption doesn't deplete the amount available from another. Okay, so that just says non-rival and non-excludable, and this has special characteristics. Okay, when we are looking at when you are looking at the characteristics, we have two special characteristics, which is non-rival and non-excludable. Those are the two main characteristics of a pure public good. Okay, but other than that, there are four others. First one is the free rider problem. Free rider problem is pure public goods are freely available for anyone. No? That means anyone can consume it, but no one pays for it. Since you don't have to pay for the good, no one is willing to express their true valuation about the good. You don't have to pay for the good. Therefore, you really don't express the real value of the good to you. Okay, that is what you call the free rider problem. Free rider means someone who enjoys the benefit of a good without paying for it. Okay, free rider is someone who enjoys the benefit of a good without paying for it. Since you are getting pure public goods free of charge, you are not really interested in expressing the true value of that good towards you. Okay, that is what you call the free rider problem. Then second one, these are other characteristics that we're discussing. A free good for consumers. That is, marginal cost is zero. There are street lights. Just because one additional person consumes or makes the use of that light, does that mean the marginal cost increased? No, there is no marginal cost in terms of pure public goods. And then an economic good for producers. Public goods are an economic good. Okay, the production is positive, therefore there is an opportunity cost. Okay, that means it is an economic good. And since there is this free rider problem, because no one pays for the goods, market economy does not allocate resources to provide pure public goods. Government intervention is required for the provision of pure public goods. Okay. Then we look at quasi-public goods. Quasi-public goods, or you call them club goods. Now I told you they have the issue of inefficient exclusion. So we just looked at in the previous slide, quasi-public goods are non-rival, but they are excludable. Okay, that means in the case of quasi-public goods, the marginal cost is actually very less, but the market charges a very higher price. This means the consumers who are willing to pay a lower price are not allowed to consume the commodity because they are not paying the price demanded by the market. Okay, this is what you call inefficient exclusion. They are willing to pay but not the amount demanded by the market. Okay, so that is what is inefficient exclusion refers to. Then common resources or common pooled resources. They are the opposite of quasi-public goods. They were rival but non-excludable. And now they have this feature, they have this tragedy of commons. What does this mean? This means they are non-excludable, right? Since they are non-excludable, you cannot limit the consumption. Therefore, the resources are being overutilized. Okay, the term tragedy of the commons refers to the depreciation of resources because they are being overutilized. Why they are being overutilized is because of their inability to limit the consumption, because they are non-excludable. Anyone can consume. Okay. Then comes private goods. It is the complete opposite of public goods. They are non-rival and non-excludable. Therefore, market mechanism allocates resources to provide private goods. Then comes global public goods, which I just told you the examples of. We have world peace, ozone layer, knowledge. Okay, those are the goods. Those are the public goods which are available globally, which are available worldwide. Okay, those are public goods which are available worldwide. Okay, so next we are going to look at market failure. Okay, but before looking at market failure, I want to emphasize on three factors. These three factors are the three criticisms against the market system. Okay, first one is inefficient allocation of resources, which we are going to discuss in externalities as well. Okay, second one is inequality in income distribution. This market economy, because of these operations in the market economy or the market mechanism, the gap between this the gap between the rich and the poor, or the income gap, expands. Okay, this is one criticism against market economy, and there are reasons for this gap. You can have different educational levels, differences in labor productivity, ownership of wealth and resources, discriminations, and as well as factor ownership and factor prices. So these are the reasons for this income inequality. That is the second criticism. The third criticism is macroeconomic instability. And this macroeconomic instability consists price instability, BOP or balance of payment instability, exchange rate instability, and interest rate instability. Okay, so these are the three criticisms against market economic systems. Okay, now since we are good with the classification of goods and the criticisms against market economic systems, we'll see what market failure is. Market failure is the market economy fails because of the price mechanism. The situation where the resource allocation by price mechanism is inefficient. That is what you call as market failure. The situation where the resource allocation by price mechanism is inefficient. And here I have given you 10 reasons why markets fail. Externalities, imperfect competition, imperfect information, non-provision of public goods, provision of demerit goods, inefficiencies in the provision of quasi-public goods, resource immobility, missing markets, inadequate supply of merit goods, and overutilization of common resources. Few of these we already have discussed. Okay, and now we are going to discuss some more. First, we'll look at non-supply of public goods. I'll read the slides and then explain. Okay, non-supply of public goods. All the consumers of public goods are free riders, that we already know. Private costs exceed private benefits. Because of all the consumers are free riders, the private costs exceed private benefits, and the incentive to provide the goods or service through the market disappears. While private cost is greater than the private benefit. Okay, therefore, the incentive market doesn't really allocate resources to supply public goods. Thus, the market fails to provide goods or the service. Therefore, the government has to provide them for collective consumption and finance through general taxation. Okay, so public goods, all are free riders. No one is really willing to pay. Therefore, the private cost exceeds the private benefit. Okay. Yes, the terms, maybe you're not familiar with the terms private cost, private benefit. We will be looking at those terms in a while as well. Okay. Therefore, the market economy does not allocate resources to provide those goods. Therefore, the government will have to provide them. And if you're providing something, you have to finance the cost. So that cost will be financed through general taxation. Second one, under provision of merit goods. Merit goods are those where social benefits exceed social social benefits exceed social costs. Okay, even though the market could provide it, consumers might not be able to afford due to high prices. Therefore, government aim to provide more of these through subsidizing production. Now, merit goods. Merit goods have positive externalities. Why I say that is they are the social cost is less than the social benefit. Okay, that means the society gets a greater benefit than the cost that it has to face. Okay, therefore the price of these merit goods are quite high, and maybe all the consumers are not really willing to pay that amount. Therefore, market economy allocates lesser resources to provide merit goods. That is why the government will have to intervene in providing merit goods as well. For an example, education. You know, private education is expensive. You go to a private school, you do a private degree, you go to a private university, those are expensive. But if you go to the government school, you go to the government university and get your degree, that is pretty much less expensive than private education. Okay, that is a very good example of this merit goods and why market economy allocates less resources to provide merit goods. Okay, then the third one, under provision of quasi-public goods. The problem of inefficient exclusion means that market's economic system doesn't allocate resources properly to provide quasi-public goods. Thus, government intervention is needed to provide them at a price that all the consumers are willing to pay. So we discussed this. We discussed the problem of inefficient exclusion, which means even though the marginal cost is pretty less, the market charges a very high price. That means the consumers who are willing to pay a lesser price cannot consume the good. Okay, that is why we need the government to intervene in this situation. Then over provision of demerit goods. To read that, of course, yes. Demerit goods are those where social cost exceed the social benefit and is overproduced by the market. Government interference through taxes or any other policies is needed to reduce the consumption and production of these goods. So, demerit goods. They are the social costs exceed the social benefits. Therefore, market overproduce. Market produces them in excess. Therefore, in this case, the government should intervene not to produce the good, but to cut off its production, either maybe through taxes or prohibitions or whatever the rules and regulations they can put in, and they have to cut off, they have to reduce the production and supply of these demerit goods. Then, overconsumption of common resources. Government interference is needed to control the consumption of common resources as they are being overconsumed by the market economic system. We know what common resources are, and we discussed that they face the tragedy of the commons because they are being overutilized since they are non-excludable. Okay, in this case, again, the government intervention is required to control the consumption of these common resources. Then, existence of imperfect information. Inefficiency in receiving information required for decision making of consumers and producers under the market economy. This is what you call existence of imperfect information. That is, the consumers or the market players, mainly the consumers and the producers, do not really have enough information to make the decisions. Okay. Why? The reasons for this, the reason for this existence of imperfect information. First one is consumers do not have adequate knowledge. They don't have adequate technical knowledge. Okay. And then advertising can mislead. Advertising can be misleading. Consumers do not have adequate knowledge. Advertising can be misleading. Producers do not know about all the opportunities available for them. And then producers, they cannot really measure the productivity accurately. And then decisions are often based on past experiences than on future knowledge. So these are the reasons for the existence of imperfect information. Okay, and then comes existence of market power. Creating a monopolistic situation due to the lack of competition in the market system is known as imperfect competition. Imperfect competition means either it is a monopoly market or it is a oligopolistic market where there are very few firms. Okay, why we call this monopoly or these oligopoly market systems as a market failure due to three reasons. First one is inefficient resource allocation. Secondly, lower level of production than the socially optimum level. And the last one is the price of goods is relatively higher than the competitive price. These are the reasons why we call monopoly or oligopoly is a market failure. And the last one is resource immobility. Since generally factors are not fully mobilized, government intervention is needed to implement a proper mechanism to mobilize the resources. We know factors of production, they are not completely movable, right? They are not fully mobilized. Factor mobility is ability of the factors of production to move from one industry to another. And this is not 100% able. Therefore, in this scenario, the government intervention is required to implement a proper mechanism to mobilize the resources in the economy. Okay. I really hope that everyone is clear with all these things, because you will need to understand these things to study the upcoming concepts. Okay. Now we are looking at externalities. What externality really is? We'll see. Non-compensated benefits or losses borne by an external party that is not participating in an economic activity. Externality is, it can be either a benefit or a loss, which is being enjoyed by someone who is not the producer, who is not the consumer. Okay, someone else is producing and consuming, but the third party, the benefit or the cost of the third party is what you call as externalities. Okay, now we identify 4 externalities and the classification is here. We have positive externalities and negative externalities, and under each type of externality we can identify production related externalities as well as consumption related externalities. So before discussing this production consumption things, we'll see what these positive externalities are and what these negative externalities are. Okay, so positive externalities are a benefit created through the production or consumption to any other party in the society except the consumer or the producer. If it is a positive externality, it generates benefits, not costs. Okay, not to the consumer or the producer, but to the third party. Okay, so negative externality is a cost to the third party who is neither the producer nor the consumer. Okay, now we'll see what are these production externalities and consumption related externalities. So I have given to you in this diagram production related positive externalities: human resource development, research and development of a firm, training and commercial cultivations, in addition production of merit goods. Those are positive production related externalities. And you have positive consumption related externalities, which are preventive medicines. We have vaccinations, then we have health education, public transport, attractive gardens, bathing regularly, education by an individual. Those are positive externalities in consumption. Then we have negative externalities in production: air and water pollution by factories, congestions, wildlife destructions, noise pollution, air and water pollution, housing developments on green belt areas. Okay, then we have negative externalities related to consumption: antisocial behavior, high volume music, damaging public properties, consumption of demerit goods, Then yes, sound pollution created by motor vehicles. All these are negative externalities under consumption. Okay, so I advise you at least remember 2 to 3 examples under each. By any chance, that is going to be a luck question. If you are planning on to write the essay answer for this, that is question number 7, right? If you are planning to answer question number 7 in your essay paper, you might get a luck question where you will have to write examples for positive negative externalities under each production consumption. So remember, at least 2 or maximum 3 will be enough. Okay. Next we'll see costs and benefits. Okay. We'll first discuss about the costs. We'll see what private cost is, what external cost is, and what social cost is. Okay. Private cost is the cost to the producer. You produce a product. Okay. And the cost that you have to bear for that product is what you call private cost. Okay, we call this the marginal private cost. Marginal private cost is the cost to produce an additional product to the producer. Okay. So this costs always comes from the producer side. Then you have the external cost. External cost is the cost created by the producer to the others in the society. Okay, that is what you call the external cost. Social cost is the addition of private cost and external cost both. Okay, if I'm to repeat myself again, private cost. Firstly, this cost, the concept costs relates to producers. Okay, private cost or the marginal private cost is the cost to produce, cost to the producer to produce an additional unit of a product. Okay, marginal external cost is the cost caused by a producer to others in the society to produce an additional unit of a product. And the social cost or marginal social cost is the combination of or the addition of both private cost and external cost. Okay, now comes the benefit. Benefit is from the consumer's point of view. Private benefit or the marginal private benefit is the benefit enjoyed by the consumers in consuming a commodity. Okay, and we have, that is the marginal private benefit. Then we have marginal external benefit, that is the benefit to the rest of the society. I am the consumer, I consume the product, and if the consumption of that product has the benefits to the rest of the society, that is what you call the marginal external benefit. Then marginal social benefit is the combination of both marginal private benefit and marginal external benefit. Okay. Now we are going to look at all those 4 externalities in detail. Okay. So first we'll look at negative externality in production. When there is a negative externality in production now, it has to be cost relative. No, if it is a negative externality in production, it has to be cost relative. That is, marginal social cost will be greater than the marginal. I am the producer. I am producing the product, and my production will cause negative externalities. Means the cost to the society or the cost to the third party should be greater than my personal cost, which means there is an external cost. When there is external cost, marginal social cost should be greater than marginal private cost. We'll see what this slide says. When market so you are given the diagram. This diagram is explained here. When market operates at point A, there is an external cost which isn't considered by the market, which causes market failure. Market allocates more resources on this production. So you see, demand is constant, no issues with the demand. Now there is a negative externality in production. In production, when cost increases, your supply will reduce. Yes, when cost increases, your supply will reduce. We all know that, no? Now, when the economy is producing at point A, the producers are only considering the personal cost or the private cost, and they are ignoring the external cost. That means your supply is greater, your supply curve is bigger than what is expected, no? Do you understand? Now see this curve S equals MPC. So in this supply curve, it only represents the marginal private cost. Okay, that is your cost, you considering a lesser cost, but your actual cost has to be the marginal social cost because it has negative externalities. Then your supply curve will shift left. Okay, government interferes to achieve the socially efficient output, reducing the supply from S to S1. Your supply will reduce from S to S1. Without the government interference, resource allocation would be inefficient, creating a net welfare loss. See, S1 curve, S1 is the ideal supply, considering all the costs. But market allocates resources to supply this S curve. That means it has created a net welfare loss, which is represented through this triangle. So when there is a negative externality in production, market output is greater than the socially efficient output, and market price is less than the socially efficient price. Can we see at point A, quantity is Q1, price is P1, but the ideal price will be P2 and the quantity is Q2. Okay, so marginal social cost is the marginal private cost plus the marginal external cost. Marginal social benefit equals to the marginal private benefit. Finally, marginal social cost equals to marginal social benefit. Okay. So the same way, if you understand one externality, you can understand the rest three easily. Okay, that is why I took some time explaining you this. Okay, because you need to understand this. Next, we look at negative externalities in consumption. Now, what is consumption related? Consumption related means it is a negative externality. If it is a negative externality means what you call your personal benefit is greater than the social benefit. That means, okay, I'll explain you through an example. You smoke, you are getting a benefit. This is a negative, you're happy. Okay, you're paying for the product, you're getting a benefit. But the rest of the society might not be happy for what you are actually doing. Okay, that means you're creating a cost to them, or your marginal external benefit is negative. Can you understand? You're smoking, because you want to smoke, you smoke. Okay, and you're happy. You have your private benefit, but the society is not happy about it. That means you create a cost for them. That is, the marginal external benefit is negative. Okay, see this diagram. Yeah, we'll look at the diagram, and while I'm reading this, you try to understand. Okay, when there is a negative externality in consumption, marginal private benefit is greater than marginal social benefit. That is what I just explained. I am satisfied, but for the society, I'm making a cost. Okay, that means the social benefit, marginal social benefit is less than the marginal private benefit. Okay, when market operates at point A, so currently the market is operating at point A. This is the point where the market is operating. I have my private benefit. This demand curve is equal to marginal private benefit. Supply is with no issues. Okay. When the market operates at point A, there is an external cost which isn't considered by the producer, which causes market failure. Market allocates more resources on this production. Government interferes to achieve the socially efficient output, reducing the demand from D to D1. Now, actually, what happens? Yes, what actually happens is the benefit that you enjoy is greater than the benefit to the society. Okay, therefore, your demand will reduce. That this D1 curve is the ideal demand curve. But the market does not consider this negative externality, this part marginal, this negative marginal external benefit or this marginal external cost. The society is not considering. Okay, that means the society is over consuming the good, paying an extra price. There is a net welfare loss. When there is a negative externality in consumption, market output is greater than socially efficient output, and socially efficient price is less than the market price. Okay? Socially efficient price is less than the market price. So at A, Q1 is the quantity, P1 is the price. But the demand curve shifts left. So demand reduces, quantity reduces to Q2 and price falls to P2. Okay? Marginal social cost equals to marginal private cost. That has no issues. And marginal social benefit equals to marginal private benefit minus marginal external cost. Or you can say it marginal private benefit plus negative marginal external benefit. Okay. Finally, it equals to marginal social cost will equal to marginal social benefit. Okay. So clearly understand this. Okay. You having your in this scenario, negative external in consumption, this the economy allocates more resources to produce the good because it ignores the cost or the negative externality. But if this externality is being considered, your demand is going to actually reduce. That is what this diagram says. Okay. Now we are coming to positive externalities. So firstly, we'll see positive externalities in production. When there is a positive externality in production, marginal social cost is less than marginal private cost. That means there is actually a benefit to the society. Okay. The cost to the producer is greater than the cost to the third part, cost to the society. That is, your marginal external cost is positive. Okay. When market operates at point A, there is an external benefit which isn't considered by the market, which causes market failure. Market allocates resources on this production. See, initially this is your, yes, initially this S curve is your supply curve, where you are considering only your marginal private cost. Okay, you are considering only your marginal private cost. At that point, you will operate at point A, where your price is going to be P1 and quantity is going to be Q1. But with the government, with the government intervention, we'll say, but actually your supply has to be the curve S1. Why? Because there is a positive externality. Because marginal social cost is less than the marginal personal cost, private cost, which means your supply will increase. Can you understand? Okay. Therefore, when this positive externality is not considered, again, there is a net welfare loss. I know these areas are a bit of complicated areas. So spend some more time understanding all these. Analyze the diagrams. Analyzing the diagrams is the best way. More than reading these points, analyze the diagrams. Analyzing the diagrams is the best way to understand what this externalities is all about. Okay, so spend some more time and try to understand these. Government interference to achieve the socially efficient output, increasing supply from S to S1. Without the government interference, resource allocation would be inefficient, creating a net welfare loss. When there is a positive externality in production, market output is less than socially efficient output. Socially efficient price is greater than the market price. So this is the market price and this is the, so at point A, price is P1, quantity is Q1. But when it's moving to point B, quantity increases and price falls. Okay. So marginal social cost equals to marginal private cost minus marginal external benefit. Marginal social benefit will equal to marginal private benefit. Finally, at the end of the day, marginal social cost will equal to marginal social benefit. The same way, we'll understand positive externalities in consumption. Okay, when there is a positive externality in consumption, marginal social benefit is greater than marginal private benefit. That means your demand will obviously increase. Yes, without the government intervention, there is going to be a net welfare loss. When your demand increases, your quantity will increase, your price will increase. That means under a positive externality in consumption, market output is less than the socially efficient output and the market price is less than the socially efficient price. Okay. Now we'll see what are the measures that we can take to correct a market failure. I have given you 10. You will not be required to know all these in detail. Just know. And if you are required to give this, explain this in exam, just explain it briefly. You will be not tested in detail about these things. Okay, therefore describe this briefly and no examples for it. Okay, the first one is direct state provisions. For an example, we can say provision of public goods and merit goods by the government. Externalities can be taken out, right? Then extension of property rights, protection of patent rights, copyrights and trademarks can be done. Then taxation. You can impose higher taxes on the consumption of the merit goods. Then subsidies. You can subsidize the production of merit goods. Deregulations. What you can do for deregulations? Yes, you can do sale of cigarette cannot be done for a person less than 21 years of age in Sri Lanka. That is a deregulation. Okay. Then prohibitions. For prohibitions, yes, you can say you can't smoke public. It's strictly prohibited. Then you can do positive discrimination. Positive discrimination, for an example, there cannot be differences in granting government employments based on ethnicity. That is a positive discrimination. You can't discriminate people based on ethnicity when you are granting government employment opportunities. So just same like redistribution of income, price controls for recently privatized utilities, policies to introduce competition in the market. Okay, so these are the measures to correct market failure. So my request from this part of the video, this part A, this is the first part under public sector economy. The difficult area was understanding those 4 externalities with the diagrams. When you say it, it's easy, but when you are trying to understand it with the diagrams, I know it's a bit of a difficulty. So spend some more time, analyze the diagrams, try to understand at least one. If you can understand one properly, the rest of the 3 you will be able to understand easily. So spend more time, understand one, analyze it. Okay, so that is the best way to understand these externalities. Spend more time. So this is the end of the first video under this chapter. So I'll see you guys in the second video under public sector economy. Thank you.